Good morning. I hope your week is off to a great start. You're ready for week 4. I sure am. We started talking about curriculum a couple weeks ago. Last week we really started to talk about diversity. I asked you last week to stay away from talking about ages and ethnicity, race. And today we really are picking up, or this week we really are picking up on this ages and stages. And you're going to see that in our readings. I have to tell you, I have loved this ages and stages stuff for a long, long time. And I really am going to want you to look at your congregation within these contexts. I want you to think beyond just ages, to think in terms of stages, if you will. You know, in mid-America, we used to have high school conferences, and we moved our young people out of those conferences because, quite honestly, talking about ages and stages, high schoolers aren't really meant to sit there and to listen. That's school. That's like Sunday school. So they began to look at that. What about ages? What about stages? What about learning styles? And how are we going to maximize that for young people, but older people as well? Maybe in your region or your conference, your jurisdiction, whatever that may be for you. Perhaps you have stretched that. Now you're doing adult camps, not just adult conferences or workshops or seminars, but actual camps and getting out there. I know in 3 regions, young adults are really enjoying these camping experiences, and so now we offer young adult camps, and I can see that going until they're well into adulthood. Let's talk just a moment more about stages. When I was in the Georgia region, we were looking at doing some kind of partnership with the National Benevolence Association. And as we looked at that, we were looking at housing for older adults. What we learned, or we knew at that time, and granted that's quite a number of years ago now, but what we were learning and had learned at that time was that the older adults then, they grew up in an age where you sat on your front porch. You watched not just the world go by, you watched your neighbors go by. One of my fondest memories as a young adult was sitting on my nanny's front screened-in porch in Atlanta, Georgia, and just chatting and talking away the day for 1 hour and 2 hours. And I have to tell you, I wish I knew what happened to those days and why I can't figure out how to recreate them. Mother of 3 young children, didn't have a car, had to walk to work, walk to school, take a bus everywhere I went that was outside of our little neighborhood, and still had 1 and 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, to sit there and talk with Nanny and watch the neighborhood go by. So these houses that we were looking at were going to have porches where their residents could sit. I live in a neighborhood now where we have chairs out. I live on a corner. You're seeing me on the side street, and our front door is actually our back door. It goes into the kitchen. But we sit out here. We have a table. We have our chairs. Our neighbors across the street, they do the same thing. Up and down our street, you'll see our neighbors, your neighbors that are out there. Some of them have porches, and they are, goodness, 20, 30 years younger than I am, and they're sitting out there on their porches, but watching their neighborhood go by. So those are stages, and I want you to think about that in terms of education and developing and nurturing adults. You're going to see it today. This week, here are ages and groupings and what people are like stereotypically. That question then comes back to what else is there.